All right, let's talk about a massive shift in how we're going back to the moon. For years, NASA had this grand plan, right? It all hinged on building a brand new space station, but orbiting the moon. And then, almost out of nowhere, the whole multi-billion-dollar thing just got canceled. So what on earth happened?
I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? Why? Why would you cancel a project that's been in the works for years? We're talking billions of dollars already down the drain. International partners who were all in. It's a huge, huge decision. And the answer? Well, it tells this incredible story about risk, about ambition, and really about what our future in space is actually going to look like. And here's the thing you have to understand. This isn't just about NASA changing its mind on one project. No, this is way bigger. This signals a fundamental shift in the entire global race back to the moon. The old playbook? It's been thrown out. We're in a whole new era now with a much more aggressive game plan.
Okay, so to really get why this pivot is such a big deal, we first have to talk about the plan they scrapped. Let's dive in to the Lunar Gateway. This was supposed to be our permanent home away from home in deep space, our stepping stone to get boots back on the lunar ground. So the Gateway was basically going to be this all-in-one hub orbiting the moon. You know, a habitat, science lab, command center, a parking spot for spaceships. The plan was astronauts would launch from Earth, fly to the Gateway, dock, and then kind of like a bus transfer, they'd get into a separate lander to go down to the surface. It was complicated, for sure, but on the surface, it seemed to make sense. And this thing was a huge deal, not just for NASA. It was a massive international project. I mean, you had contributions from Europe, Japan, Canada, even the UAE. The idea was to create the next ISS, but around the moon. It was supposed to be this amazing symbol of global cooperation in space. But right from the get-go, not everyone was on board. The Gateway had some pretty serious critics, and we're not talking about just random people online. We're talking about some of the biggest names in spaceflight, legendary figures who looked at this plan and said, hold on a second, this isn't a stepping stone, this is a ridiculously expensive and dangerous detour. Yeah, the criticism was coming from the absolute top. I mean, when Buzz Aldrin, the second human being to ever walk on the moon, calls your lunar plan absurd, you've got a problem. His point, and a lot of others agreed, was why are we building an expensive artificial space station to get to a giant natural space station that's already there? You know, the moon itself. And Robert Zubrin, who's a huge voice for space exploration, he was even more direct about it. He basically said, look, if your goal is a moon base, then just build the moon base on the moon. Why add this super complex, super expensive middleman in orbit? It just didn't add up for him. So let's break down the main arguments against it, because they're pretty compelling. First, there was the added risk. The orbit they chose meant that if there was an emergency on the surface, it could take astronauts nearly a week to get back to the safety of the Gateway. A week! Then you have the added complexity, all these different dockings just to make one trip down. And of course, the insane cost. But maybe the final nail in the coffin was a government report in 2024 that highlighted some serious technical issues. Things like it being too heavy and not even being able to handle the huge new landers that were being built. And so, with all of that criticism mounting, it finally happened. In early 2026, NASA made the call. The Lunar Gateway, at least as we knew it, was done. It was canceled. The new focus? Officially, it was all about the lunar surface. And when you compare the old plan to the new one, wow, the difference is night and day. The path is just simpler. Straight from Earth to the moon, no middle stop. The focus is also way more ambitious. It's not just about visiting, it's about staying. They're talking about using lunar resources to live there. You know, living off the land, which has this cool acronym, ISRU. The real goal now is a permanent base by the 2030s. It's faster, it's more direct, and honestly, it's a much bigger dream. Now, you might be wondering about all that time and money, right? Well, it wasn't a complete loss. A lot of the key tech developed for the Gateway, especially this really advanced power and propulsion system, is being repurposed. It's going to be used for future deep space missions, you know, the kind of stuff we'll need to get to Mars. So the work isn't gone, it's just getting a new job. So why the big pivot now? Well, this decision wasn't just about NASA's budget or technical problems. It didn't happen in a vacuum. It's really about a much, much bigger shift in how we see space. We're past the days of just planting flags and leaving footprints. This is about economics, and we're talking economics on a cosmic scale. I mean, just get a load of this number. A recent report estimates the space economy will be worth almost $1.8 trillion by 2035. That's trillion with a T. And that's not just sci-fi stuff. We're talking satellites, lunar mining, off-world manufacturing, the whole shebang. And the moon? It's seen as the key that unlocks that entire economy. And this comment from Reddit, it's hilarious, but it kind of perfectly captures the spirit of what's happening. There's this undeniable feeling that we're on the verge of a new gold rush. It's a commercial race for resources, for strategic real estate. And whoever sets up the first real economic outpost on the moon, well, they're going to have a massive head start. And this new race is starting to look like it has two main teams. In one corner, you have the Artemis program led by the US, which is all about international and commercial partners and getting humans on the surface. And in the other corner, you have the ILRS, which is led by China and Russia. Their plan is more focused on robotics first, building up an automated base over time. So you've got two very different game plans for how to settle the moon. So this is the main takeaway. Canceling the gateway and going straight for a moon base wasn't just about saving money or simplifying a mission. It was a strategic move. It's a recognition that in this new space race, a floating outpost just isn't as valuable as owning the land, controlling the resources on the surface. It's like they say, it's all about controlling the high ground, or in this case, the ice-rich ground at the lunar South Pole. And all of this leads to a pretty mind-blowing final thought. They say the first trillionaire won't be made on Earth. They'll be made in space. So as we watch this new race to the moon heat up, the question is no longer if that will happen, but in this high-stakes game, who is it going to be?